Hey everybody, happy Sunday. So excited tonight to introduce y'all to one of our family's dearest families that we know in our whole life, and her name is Sister Carol Ann. She is with the Order of St. Francis, Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration. So you're going to love her. She is an absolute and total delight. So tonight I know that her mom is watching and her sister is watching. So it'll be fun to have them on here watching. And yes, if y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them. Okay, so let me see if I can add her and we should be in good shape.
Hello.
Oh, where are you? I don't see you, but maybe everybody else does. Oh, there you are. Oh, it's so good to see your sweet face.
Oh, a little sunburnt today, but oh well.
Oh my gosh, you laugh just like your mom. It's
Yeah,
the best.
yeah.
Oh, so what were you doing outside to get sunburned?
Going for a walk, catching up with
Oh,
sisters. So,
very nice. So what's the temperature like in Mishawaka today?
in the 70s. So really,
Oh,
yeah. This part,
deceiving.
yeah.
Oh man, you know what? I have not seen your face and like this since before you entered the convent. Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
I was telling everyone, so in my post today, I told everyone, I said, I knew you when you were a teenager. That was the first time that we met your family. And then you went to high school, but you are our very first babysitter for Will. Aside from my parents, you were the
Mhm.
very first one. So, and now he's 19. How did
Wait,
that happen?
that doesn't make me old, does it?
No, because sisters don't age. Y'all, you will be perpetually just like that. Y'all never age. It's so awesome.
My dad always told us when we wanted to wear makeup and we were younger, he would tell us to look at the sister's skin and how nice it was.
Oh my gosh, your dad is such a hoot.
I'm banking on that. So he would have told me to wear sunscreen today. So
Yeah, well, we can just tell him it was the lighting. You
yeah,
don't have to tell him I mean, the sun maybe, but it's definitely the lighting. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about. I was on y'all's website today, and it made me smile because I didn't know that you were in their vocations video. So as I'm watching it, it was like maybe it was your novitiate during your novitiate because you had the white veil, and you were talking about adoration at Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So for people that don't know, Sister Carol Ann and I went to the same parish in Indiana called Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And while we were there, they opened a Perpetual Adoration Chapel, which was a big deal for our community. And a lot of graces happened because of that. I was actually the first hour after everybody left. I had the very first hour that night. I do remember that. But you specifically talked about that in the video, and that really touched me about how that kind of influenced part of your decision to look at this particular order of sisters, but also just sisterhood in general. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was 16 when the Adoration Chapel opened, and I signed up for an hour, 9 p.m. on Thursdays, and yeah, it
That's
was
so funny. I was 10. I was 10 on Thursdays.
right
There,
after. Yeah.
yes. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, it was one of the early places that my parents would let me drive. I was allowed to go in my
You
Adoration.
can get you can drive to adoration. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
pretty
so great.
wild kid. But yeah, it was really a beautiful experience to have that time each week set aside for the Lord. And I can't, like, there's just so many graces that I received during that time. And when I went to college, we had adoration just for 1 hour a week on my campus, and I
So
definitely,
you were at St. Mary's, right?
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. And Notre Dame had it more, but so I could go there. And actually, I Googled once I had a car in college, thinking there's got to be a parish around here that has adoration, and I found our community because we're like 15 minutes from Notre Dame. But I thought there's no way I'm going to a convent, so I didn't go.
You're like, I mean, I like adoration, but I don't know if I want to pray with a bunch of sisters. And now look at you. You do it all the time. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
here I am.
So but when you left St. Mary's, so you had a degree in accounting and you started making your way towards becoming a CPA. So how did you get from CPA? Because you took the exam. I know there's like, I definitely want you to talk about that. And then the sisterhood. So walk us through like, okay, you leave, you get a job, you start studying for the CPA exam, and then what happens?
Yeah. So it's interesting how much my journey to pass the CPA exam and also to become a sister were kind of intertwined. So I started working, loved my job, I lived in Broad Ripple, in the fun part of
Oh,
town.
that is a fun part of town.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Broad Ripple.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of, I was living this life that I kind of was hoping for after college, but it still felt like something was missing. And so I started praying more intentionally about my vocation, thinking that's kind of the missing piece here. But the more that I prayed about it, the more I just felt the Lord inviting me deeper into relationship with Him, and especially to daily mass, which at this point it's kind of long hours as an accountant, so I would have to go early in the morning, and I'm not really a morning person, even after being.
And what time do you have to get up now? Oh, that's so funny. So what time do you get up now, though?
Yeah, about 5.
Ooh, okay. All right, we'll come
Okay.
back to that.
But yeah, um, so yeah, I really felt this call to daily mass, but I was, yeah, just struggling to get up to go. So I actually took a sabbatical from my job for a month because I was having trouble passing the CPA exam. I'd never really struggled academically before, and I wasn't able to pass this exam. So I took a month off, and I was studying for the CPA exam. So I had like no excuses because I had a really flexible schedule. So I could go to mass at noon, I could go in the evening, I could go whenever. So that was really when I started. A lot of my life I'd gone to daily mass, but I had stopped when I was working. So I really started going back to daily mass, and it was yeah, just really intertwined with so I was up for promotion for my job, and I was qualified except that I hadn't passed the exam. So I had one last chance to take it to make it in this promotion class. And so that was actually that was right around the time that I was really starting to get serious about discerning. So I was going to visit our community the same day that I took the exam. And
Boy, God has good timing, doesn't
yeah,
he? He like throws it all in at the same time. Oh my
right. Yeah.
gosh.
I totaled my car that week. It was like I did
Oh my. Well,
everything.
poverty. You don't have to worry about the car anymore, right?
Yeah. So I took the exam, and then I came to the convent. I found out it takes forever for them to grade it, but I found out like 3 or 4 weeks later that I'd passed. And it was just really interesting, all the timing, because I'd finally gotten to the point in my discernment that I felt like I was willing to give up my career and kind of be able to move on from that. And then the Lord handed me, kind of the next step in my career with having passed the CPA exam. So it was a year later that I was promoted, and I worked for one more year before I entered the convent while I continued to discern.
So you did get to use the CPA exam
I did,
in
yeah.
but I'm betting that it come in handy as a sister?
Yeah, my assignment now is to do accounting. So I still.
All right.
Yeah.
That would not be my gift. So I'm glad that there are people like you that I'm like, no, that's optional. So I'm glad that you have that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I think, and I don't know that we've talked about this with any of the other sisters. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that story. It's really beautiful. You do live vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, but the order has to have money to be able to form all the sisters and to run the convent and do all those things. So how does a religious order, yours in particular, how do you guys have the funds to run your sisterhood?
Yeah. So each community is a little bit different. Ours, it comes mostly, our sisters receive stipends for their service. So our community was founded, well, first of all, for Perpetual Adoration, but also for healthcare and education.
I was going to say Perpetual Adoration is beautiful, but it does not pay the bills. So that's why I asked. So,
but a lot of prayers are
true.
answered.
True. Amen to that. Yes.
So we have sisters that teach in grade schools, high schools, and we sponsor a university. And then we also sponsor a healthcare system with 12 hospitals in Indiana and Illinois. Okay. So we have sisters that serve in all of those capacities, and they receive a stipend for their service. So it's the same or similar to what a layperson would make back in the day. To be that sisters really didn't get paid anything, but new sisters would fund the retirement of the old sisters for their care,
Wow.
but that kind of no longer became viable. And now sisters are paid pretty much about the same. So
Do you have sisters that are part of your community that have like their teaching degree or they have a background in medicine? And are they able to use those degrees, I guess, maybe in a different way than what they might think that they were originally going to do them in?
yeah, we have a lot of sisters that are, major or degrees in healthcare, education, all different areas. And a lot of sisters end up staying kind of if they're in education, they'll kind of stay in
Right.
education, move different levels. Like the president of our university, she has taught in grade schools before she became before
Oh,
she
whoa.
became the president. So
Yeah.
kind of levels. And sometimes there is a switch between healthcare and education.
Yeah. So what's been your favorite? I know that at least it said in the video that they give you an opportunity to work in the vineyard, essentially to do different things within the apostolate that you have. So what's been your favorite? I don't know if you all call it an assignment, but what's been the favorite part of all that formation that you've loved the most?
Yeah, so I haven't really had many assignments. I made but when you're a novice, you have a mission experience in our community. So for 3 months, I was in a hospital, which I enjoyed. That was a great opportunity to see
Yeah.
the patient care and to see that aspect. And then once I made vows, I was assigned to part-time do accounting for the healthcare system at our corporate office. And so I live at our mother house in
Okay.
Mishawaka. And then the rest of the time I did vocation work, which I really enjoyed. I was kind of surprised how much I enjoyed it because I'm introverted, but I loved just, we just spent time mostly with college students and young women who are discerning God's will in their life. So that was a huge gift. And last year I was asked to just focus on the accounting. So now I do that full time.
Well, but even though you're an introvert, I mean, I do think when it comes to vocations, you want to have a relationship and a conversation with someone. And sometimes extroverts, we talk too much. And as an introvert, as an introvert, I think you would probably allow those women to really have a beautiful relationship with you to find out what is it like to be a sister and I mean, they can absolutely see your joy. So don't throw yourself under the bus. That's so great that you have that side of you, but it's such a beautiful blend. So I know your sister is in nursing. So when you did your stint in the hospital, were you guys able to have any conversations about, well, maybe I understand a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis and maybe could pray for you in a unique way?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think now too that we both are working in healthcare, me on the administration side,
Right.
but her also, she has a more administrative role in nursing now. And so my mom always laughs when we're together because we talk about all kinds of healthcare stuff and what's broken and what, for Catholic systems, but different systems. So we kind of have challenges about whose Catholic identity is better, which we usually,
But you're the older sister and you wear a habit.
yeah,
So we love you, Caitlin, but
yeah.
um, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about it was beautiful. You didn't know this, but when you were going through the very first few years of being in the convent and trying to discern, is this what I want to do? I was getting some beautiful feedback from your mom, and she was like, pray for this, or, I won't say your old name, but Sister Carol Ann, is doing all these things. And so it was really beautiful to hear her perspective. But I would love to hear your perspective on what that was like to leave your house and enter into the convent, because I know there's a period of time that they ask you, like, I can't just call you on the cell phone, like I had to email you to set all this up. So what's that like? Like, what's that distance like? And how did that affect your relationship with your parents and with your sister? Because I know y'all are close. So what
Yeah.
was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really hard. And that was my biggest fear going in, was just the separation, especially the first years are, we kind of joke it's like boot camp, but it kind of is. Yeah, like then you're using no technology, no email or anything then, and very limited contact with your family. But our community actually, compared to others, is a little bit, I guess, more generous with the time that we have with our families. So we were allowed to call like on Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, those like big holidays, and then on Mother's Day, Father's Day, and our parents' birthdays. So my parents' birthdays were nicely spaced that it ended up being close to once a month, which was nice.
So
And
note to
then,
self, if you send a child into the convent, make sure that your birthdays are spaced out. Okay.
right.
Point taken. Got it.
Yeah, September's really nice. There's it's kind of, you
Good.
need a break in there.
Good.
Um, and so, yeah, we had that opportunity to talk on the phone, and then they could come visit 2 days, one in the fall and one in the spring.
Wow.
And then in our community, we go home for 2 weeks a year, which is more than most communities. And you can't go home in your canonical year. So there's one year that canon law requires that's more contemplative and more separate. So we didn't go home that year, but the other years, and even now, I go home 2 weeks a year. And now the struggle is different in that I have a little more freedom. So it's trying to balance of supporting my family, but also living my religious life to the full.
Sure.
So yeah, it's been interesting how it's changed our relationship. I mean, it's been really challenging, but it's been amazing to see the way that the Lord has really just given them so much grace. And I think there's a lot that, different things that have come up in our family that I can just see the way that the graces from the sacrifices that they're making in allowing me to follow my vocation are really paying off, I guess would be the word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know not everybody has the benefit of knowing your mom and dad, but they were a huge formation piece and component for Scott and I when we were baby married and we had no children. And you come from an amazing family. I mean, your mom is the godmother to our second kiddo, so that hopefully lets people know just how much we adore your family. But I mean, I think they're also very real. Like we've had some really beautiful conversations with your parents, and they've given us some really good advice to a little bit further down the path than we were. But I remember as a newly married couple, we would come to your home and there was just this spirit of like, we want our kids to be happy, but we also want our kids to follow the plan that God has for them, no matter how much that may be painful or hard for us to walk that journey as a parent. So your mom and dad should be like the poster people for what it's like. Because they didn't do it perfect, but they did it with a lot of love. And so, I mean, that absolutely is apparent in your vocation now. I love it. So I want to know how you got, how you went from your old name to Sister Carol Ann, because not every order does that. So maybe explain to us why you changed your name and then how you got your name, your new name.
So in our community, we have the opportunity to submit 3 different name choices. So typically the sister changes her name, but she can submit her baptismal name and variations of that. And so I chose Sister Carol Ann. It was my first choice, and it is Carol with a K. So after Karol Wojtyła, who then became St. John Paul II. So I have his picture above me that you can see.
Photobombed by the Pope. I love it.
So, so he actually, I mean, this is another memory that I have of you, but from World Youth Day in
Oh
Toronto.
my gosh. That's right. I forgot that you went. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was an awesome experience to be able to be there with St. John Paul II, then just Pope John Paul II. Also to see the universal church and the way that he really was able to listen to the Lord in calling young people deeper into the faith. And so that I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back from the convent, I realized how influential that was for me. And I just have been so inspired by his teachings on theology of the body and so many different teachings that he's had. And so I was really inspired by him. He was canonized the year that I received my name.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how many years into the convent were you when you took on your new name? 1 year. Okay. So how hard, so mom and dad, I'm going to rat on them a little bit. Did they ever call you by your old name when you're home, or is it strictly Sister Carol Ann? Like, is officially Sister Carol Ann now that how do they do that? Are they pretty good about remembering you?
They are. Yeah. Really, I gave them an option that they could call me either one, but they have chosen to call me Sister Carol Ann, and they almost always do. Sometimes they slip. I find it's the more emotional moments that you're really excited something sad happened. But mostly they really, they do call me by my sister name. I'm impressed.
Well, I mean, I would imagine as a mom, it's part hard, part joyful, because it's the name that you chose for your daughter. But then God gave her the new name. So who are you to like usurp God, right? So I was like, okay, so I guess we'll call her. Now, every once in a while, I'll be talking to Scott about you and I'll say your old name and I'm like, you know who I mean, Sister Carol Ann. And he's like, yes. So every
Yeah.
once in a while, I'll slip. Yeah, you know, that just reminded me as we were about going back to World Youth Day. So
Hmm.
during that trip, actually the morning that we left, I remember our priest got a phone call. So our liturgy director, his son, who was very young at the time, passed away from cancer. And I remember Father Richard saying, we're going to hold the funeral as soon as we get back from World Youth Day. So we were at World Youth Day. We came back a few days later. And I remember walking into the church with youth specifically. And I had never been to a funeral before, ever.
Really?
That, no. And
Wow.
and that particular one, I remember like there were so many youth there because he was a beloved member of our parish community. But I won't ever forget, like y'all were so joyful. And maybe we were riding the high of World Youth Day and coming into that. But that funeral was really a beautiful celebration of life, even though the circumstances were tragic. But I won't forget, I remember sitting next to you at that funeral thinking, well, if a teenage girl can sit here and see the joy in this, then surely I can too. So maybe something to come of here you are as a sister and I'm talking to you and now I have 6 kids. Isn't that crazy? So who knew? Who knew? Oh, so what is your favorite part about being a sister?
Yeah, I think just the belonging to the Lord, you know, by our
Oh,
consecration, by our vows, we are yeah, just more fully consecrated to the Lord. And it's just a special relationship. Yeah, it's a spousal relationship. And we
yeah,
have, as religious sisters, this huge gift um, of showing what eternal life is going to be like and living a foreshadow of it here. Because we know from scripture that in heaven there will be no marriage or giving in marriage. And so that's what we're living here, where Jesus is our spouse, and that we are trying every day to be more obedient to his will and to be more conformed to him. And as Franciscans, which we are, is we have a special model in St. Francis, who was
yeah.
so conformed to Christ that he actually received the stigmata, the wounds of Jesus's passion. So yeah, that's a special gift.
So y'all are OS, so the letters after your name are OSF, so Order of St. Francis, but why
Yeah.
not OFM? So tell me the difference between OF. I know some people are like, what is she talking about? So they're like the initials after your name. So maybe kind of explain the difference because I know both are Franciscans, but y'all chose a different OSF, I guess, behind your name. I'm getting a little
Yeah.
technical. I'm just curious.
Yeah. OFM stands for Order of Friars Minor. So that's the priests
Okay.
that have that. And then
Okay.
would be or OSF would be the sisters.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
y'all choose obviously brown. So do you like go in like do they have like a Gap store for sisters where you like choose your habit or do you make your habit? Like how does that work?
Yeah, they're actually custom made for us, like a wedding dress.
Oh.
So
Oh,
yeah. So which they are our wedding dress.
yes.
So we have a woman that makes our habits for us. So
Oh,
we start with, you know, one of a sister that kind of looks around our size, and then
right.
she kind of uses that as the model, and then tailors it specifically to us and makes a new habit for us. So.
So my kindergartner wanted to know if you have ears. Do you have
Oh,
ears? Because we can't see them.
ew.
You do have ears. They're
Have
right
ears.
there.
Yeah. And my holes from my earrings are still there a little
Are
bit, but
they?
they don't go all the. I wouldn't be able to put an earring through it, but you can see that I used to have them.
Is it hard to hear with the veil over, or have you gotten
No.
used to it?
Yeah. We talk about when you get the veil, you kind of have like novice neck, and you kind of like move your whole head anytime you're worried it's gonna fall off or something. But sometimes you hear a little rustle when you move your head, but no, you get really used to it, and
You
it's
get you get used you get veil ears and you figure it out, right?
yeah, exactly.
So you had a white veil and then a black veil. So why white and why black? So tell us a little bit for those people that don't know kind of the different stages of what it's like when you enter the convent.
Yeah, so the first year, you're called a postulant, and that's kind of a year you're like living with the sisters, and but you're not a sister yet. You don't have a sister name. You're not wearing the habit. In our community, we wear kind of an ugly blue jumper. Each community is a little bit different, but they're
You can
normally
say that because you only had to wear it one year, right? And
yeah,
you're not that. Okay.
yeah. And
But
then
I almost posted that picture of you. Your mom texted it to me. You look so cute. Like your hair's super short and you have like the headband and you look adorable. And I was like, no, I can't post that one, but it's so cute. Anyway, go ahead.
then after that year, you receive the habit and then you become a novice. So that's kind of this time you haven't made any vows and you don't really have a commitment to the community, although you really do give up a lot when you enter religious life. But you are living and kind of continuing to discern, is this God's will for me? And the white is kind of a sign of newness or even bridal imagery, like the white veil that a bride would wear. And so you're wearing that in anticipation for your day of making your vows. And so your first vows come after being in the convent about 3 years. If you kind of continue to discern, the community discerns, and if you both feel like this is God's will, then you request to move forward. And so then you make vows. In our community, we make vows for 3 years, and then we
and y'all call those first vows. Is that right? Okay.
And it's a temporary profession.
Okay.
So the church requires that you have at least 1 year as a novice, and then that you make vows and then you renew them again. So each community is a little bit different. Ours is you're in temporary vows a total of 5 years. And I'm in my 4th year of temporary vows. So
I was getting ready to ask when you take perpetual vows, because that's a big deal.
It is.
Like, we got to circle that date on the calendar. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's supposed to be August 2nd, 2021. So
thank goodness it's not 2020. Okay, that's good. 2021. All right, good to know. So I want to go all the way back when you said that you were not a morning person, and now you get up at 0500 with the chickens. So walk us through a normal, just a normal regular day in Sister Carol Ann's life. What does that look like?
Yeah. So I said I get up at 5. It kind of depends. I do a lot of times take adoration at 3. So that'll be kind of like the start of my day. Sometimes
so if you do it at 3, are you up? Like, you don't go back to bed?
It depends on how much willpower I have that day. So
fair.
Is after adoration, I would work out and then shower and go to prayers. But most of the time, I just go back to bed.
Because you're normal. You're a normal person, Sister Carol Ann. That's why. Okay.
So then if I go back to bed, I get up at 5, and we have meditation at 5:30. And then we have morning prayer. We pray the Liturgy of the Hours, which is the prayer of the church. And we pray that at 6 o'clock, and then followed by Mass. So we have Mass all together as a community. And then those that can stay for breakfast, but everybody kind of runs off to their apostolate. The school sisters have to run off right away. And then those that can, from our apostolate, we come back for lunch. And there is midday prayer, which is an optional prayer for us. So those that work at the convent often go to that. And then we have lunch, and then afterwards everyone goes back to their apostolate, and we all come back at 5 o'clock for a holy hour. So we have rosary, evening prayer, and benediction. And then we have supper followed by recreation. So that's kind of, I always think of that as like a sister thing, recreation. I mean, we all do it in some way, but you don't really call it that with your family usually. So
just don't kill each other is what we call it in our family. Quit hip checking people. Yeah. I love that you call it supper though, and not dinner. That's so great. That speaks to my Southern heart. So thank you for calling it supper.
We have the farm schedule. Lunch is technically called dinner.
There you go. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So dinner's our main meal in the middle of the day.
Just like typical, like the Italians, right? They're always in the middle of the day. That way you have your most energy for the afternoon before you retire in the evening. And then what time so you have dinner and recreation. So what do you normally do? Like, what's a recreation for Sister Carol Ann? What do you do?
Yeah, so in our convent, we have all different ages of sisters. The youngest are in their early 20s, and the oldest that live in our immediate convent are in their late 80s.
So how many sisters is that?
About 30.
Okay.
So we play mostly games like card games, board games. Euchre is big here. Yes. Good Indiana game, Midwest game. But we play all different kinds of games. And that usually lasts until about 7. So not really, but it's really beautiful because it is a time that you're just being together. And I do find that the struggles that I am carrying with me from the apostolate, I bring them to prayer and I'm trying to let go of them. but really I do a little bit, but it's recreation that really helps me to just be present to my sisters and let go of those concerns of the day, which is a gift.
That's a beautiful way to look at recreation.
Yeah.
I would just be looking at it as to burn off steam. I hadn't thought about it as a beautiful way to reflect on and let go of some things so that you can go into deeper prayer. Of course, this is why you're the sister and why I'm the mom. So this is good. This is good. Oh, I have so many questions for you. I know that you have a lot of family that is watching here, and I know that you don't have social media accounts. So by the way, please tell your prioress thank you for allowing us to do this, because to be honest, I wasn't sure that they were going to let me talk to you. And I kind of had to chuckle when you're like, it's been 7 years, Kathryn, since I've been on social media. And I was like, that sounds so amazing.
Yeah.
But thank you. Please tell her thank you for me. But I know that you have a lot of family on here that are watching that don't get to see you very often. So is there anything that you want to say to your family while you have your own captive audience?
Yeah, just hello, and that I love you. Yeah, happy that we can kind of be together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know. I got some sweet messages. They were like, we can't wait to see her tonight. So I know I do think it's a gift, though, that you remind us that it's okay. Like, you can still live a life of joy, probably more joy and a lot less stress if you're not on social media. But I know that your order has a page. It's a beautiful, if you're not following, it should be up in the top. Like, it says who we're going live with, and I'll tag them in a little bit. But thank you very much for sharing. Oh my gosh, I just love your joy. You are exactly the way that I remember, except now you're in a habit. So I love it. Oh my God. And it's like I'm talking to your mom, because I can totally see the face, but the laugh, it's so good. Oh my gosh, I love it. All right. So what's one way that we can pray for you, the people that are watching here live, and then when they see the replay later, I'm always ask sisters one way that we can pray for them specifically.
Yeah, pray for vocations to our community,
Sure.
for more young women to follow in the footsteps of St. Francis and our foundress, Blessed Maria Theresia, for a greater zeal and joy as we carry out their mission.
Well, I had so many people that were saying, I love those sisters. They had beautiful stories about either being taught by y'all or having known you. And I think you've got a few sisters who are former net ministers. And some people were like, oh my gosh, I was on net with them. So I know the reach is far and wide, but if vocations or accounting ever bring you to Texas, we will come see you. I will drive over and come see you. But the next time I'm in Indiana, I may have to swing by. So if someone comes to the convent, are they allowed to pray with you, or are y'all just like only your sisters?
So normally our Perpetual Adoration Chapel is open to the public from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But
is that every day?
Yeah, every day. But because of COVID, we're still closed.
Okay.
We're trying to be really careful because we have so many elderly.
So no, we'll wait till all that goes away, and then because right now I can't even get on a plane to come see you, but someday. Oh my gosh, this was so good. Would you end us with a prayer, Sister Carol Ann? Okay.
Yeah. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the gift of this day, especially this gift of the Solemnity of Corpus Christi, where we remember the way that you are so present with us in the Eucharist. And we ask that you would with your very life. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Sister Carol Ann, thank you for taking time tonight out of your busy day and recreation and getting sunburned and all that to spend time with us. But it was a gift, really, to have you here. So please share our thanks with all of your sisters. Let them know that we're praying for them. And we love you very much.
I love you too.
All right.
You.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.